Now, I guess since the last time we talked, there's always a crisis, I guess, and now the latest one, I guess, is the situation with foreclosures and not, I guess we should have realized this, that we don't always know who owns the mortgages.
Well, we always did, but the problem we have, the problem we have here is that
Yeah.
you know, you just have to wonder, and it's kind of what I'm now on the oversight panel on the
Right.
TARP, which is where we put a lot of resources, which was originally, we had, I mean, I was not here when they voted on it, but we came close to a complete financial meltdown. I think the TARP helped us, but it was done during the Bush administration, and I didn't vote for it. I probably would have if I'd been here, but been in the Senate. But so I'm on this oversight panel, TARP,
Right.
and I've got, there's 5 of us. Elizabeth Warren used to be the chair,
Right.
and then my other 4 members elected me the chair. So it's great. It's a great. I mean, it's something. The fact that it was Republicans and Democrats both voted for me means a lot to me. And so we're starting to look at this, and what you see, we had a hearing yesterday on this. We had the woman who heads up the housing program, it's called HAMP, in the Treasury to come and speak to us, and we had 5 panelists. And I mean, it's truly scary when you read about how little planning was done on Wall Street for what the whole securitization of residential backed mortgages. In fact, you take these mortgages out of their communities, you bundle it up, you send it to Wall Street, you sell it to Iceland. And all of a sudden this mortgage from Southern California is owned by a pension fund in Iceland, or the Bank of Iceland, or a pension fund in Paris, wherever. And no plan at all for what happens if in fact it starts coming apart, which is why the federal government had to go and save the whole banking system.
Right.
Which not only destroyed, the Wall Street not only almost destroyed the United States financial system, they almost destroyed the financial system of the world. And it was because of a lack of planning and a lack of oversight from Washington on what does a securitization mean? I mean, this is a whole new way of doing things, and no one ever thought, no one spent time. I mean, when I say no one, it's really quite scary. Not many people thought about, well, what happens if, in fact, the housing market turns south? What happens? And then, now what's happening is, what concerns me is there's every possibility that the same lack of diligence and interest in terms of what happens with these when you have a great number of foreclosures. And you're absolutely right. In the old days, I mean, what worked was, you had your mortgage with your bank. You had a problem with your mortgage, you went down and talked to the mortgage bank, mortgage person.
Right.
They had your mortgage. They knew where it was. You knew where it was. You may not like what the result was, but you could work it out.
Right.
And you could at least talk to someone who knew what's going on. What's happening more and more, as we find out, is that nobody knows where the mortgages are. We have situations where people, I saw a report in the news the other day, and more than one, of people who had already paid off their mortgages, and the bank went and foreclosed on them.
Yeah.
And so, you have this disconnect, which you had to be thinking about. When you do this, when you do something as radical a change as this, are you going to take all the mortgages, you're going to take them out of Wilmington, Delaware, you're going to take them out of LA, you're going to take them out of Miami, Florida, you're going to securitize them up, and then you're going to sell them. Somebody had to say, at some point, what happens if the worst happens? And it doesn't seem to me that there was a whole lot of planning for that eventuality. And it could be, in these hearings, a number of people said it could be a real, not just a problem for what I think is the main problem, which is people out there who are losing their mortgage or being foreclosed on, who shouldn't be foreclosed on, who have no one to deal with. That's the real problem to me. But once again, it could be a problem where the banks are back in trouble again. And that is a real concern with me, because I don't think there's much appetite, and there sure isn't any appetite for me to bail the banks out again. So this is a real concern, and I'm going to be monitoring as the chair of this oversight panel on the TARP to see what we can do about it and how it's going to work out.
Is there still a basic misunderstanding of what took place in the past 2 years? I mean, I hate to say this, but I know my stockbroker, who was just the most conservative guy I ever saw in my life, but he went back and read and looked at all this stuff, and he looks at things much differently than he used to. And I'm wondering if there's anybody, if there's been a tendency to forget what's happened the last 2 years and just say, okay, and go back to whatever you believed.
Oh, no, I think one of the things I found is that I spend time talking to folks on Wall Street, and I've spoken on the floor, as you know, repeatedly about this, and I've given speeches, and I've been on television shows, and been on radio shows, and the rest of it. And there is you're absolutely right in terms of Wall Street, there is kind of they're in denial that anything went wrong. You talk to them so often, they were being over-regulated. The problem was there was no regulation on Wall Street. And Alan Greenspan, who was for this, who basically believed in self-regulation, even he gave a speech a year ago at the Empire Club in New York, and he said, you know, I thought self-regulation would work, it clearly didn't, and I'm dismayed.
Right.
And you know, I think it's very simple when you look and go back and look at the amount of debate that was on the floor on the Dodd-Frank bill. Right. It's clear, you know, pretty clear what the problems are. The real difference of opinion, I had a number of differences of opinion with the bill. I voted for it in the end because I thought it did a lot more good than it didn't do. But the big difference was not what the problem was. The difference was, do we actually pass a bill like we did in 1920 and 1934 when we passed Glass-Steagall after the Great Depression? Do we pass a bill that actually laid out what the rules are going to be, or do we pass it back to the regulators to make the decisions? And the decision the majority in the Senate had was to give it back to the regulators. My approach was, our job was to lay out, you know, reinstate Glass-Steagall. I mean, I'm very conservative on these issues. I want to go back to what worked in the past.
That's exactly what my stockbroker decided. He decided Glass-Steagall should come back and support it.
Exactly. And it is not complex if you have the time. We're all busy. If you have the time to just look at the facts, you know what happened during the 19th century and before the 19th century. There used to be these bank runs and bank panics, and then we had the Great Depression, and we had a thing called the Pecora Commission, where they sat down and they looked at everything and they said, look, one of the problems here is that people don't trust their banks, and you have a run on the banks, and it destroys the whole financial system. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass this bill, Glass-Steagall, which essentially says, look, if you want to be in the banking business, commercial banking business, we're going to guarantee your assets. We're going to set up this Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. We're going to assets, but you've got to stay out of risky stuff. So if you're running a local bank, you can make loans to the business community, you can make loans to individuals, you can get interest. You know, this is not going to be a high return business, but it's going to be low risk business, low risk, low return. And so therefore, if you go in the banking business, you cannot be in the investment banking business. And so and we had Glass-Steagall. And so from 1934 until this great meltdown, it worked pretty well. We didn't have panics. We had financial reversals. I'm not saying that. We had the economy go bad. We had recessions. We didn't have this incredible threat to the banking system. And then in 1999, we passed what's called Graham-Leach-Bliley, which was for Senator Graham from Texas, and Congressman Leach and Congressman Bliley from the House of Representatives. And basically it said we're going to do away with Glass-Steagall. And we're going to allow banks to get into the high-risk investment banking business. And you had mergers and the rest of that. And so and then what happened is they got into this, you know, derivatives and these other high-risk businesses, and we had to bail them out. And so my basic approach was, let's go back to what's worked, and let's go back to the thing, and let's go back to regulating the banks as opposed to just leaving it for self-regulation.